So let's talk self-leveling loaders. And notice I didn't say mechanically self-leveling because while that's one option, it's not the only one we're going to talk about today. Now the objective of this video really is to just start the conversation for those interested on potentially creating a self-leveling option for this tractor and the 2R and 3E series tractor and even the 3R and beyond, but not doing it using mechanically self-leveling technology. I'll get into why that is in just a bit, but let me start, well, with that thought in mind, let me start with telling you the different options we have. And there may be one other option, but these are the three main options, okay? So the first one is mechanically self-leveling. As mentioned, you take this mast, it goes a little bit higher, you put some additional metal on here, you connect everything together. It has to be a pivot point here. It has to anchor to this mast or something back here that is immovable. And by doing so, as you move up here, it changes the geometry through that pivot and actually keeps your front end loader level. So that is mechanically self-leveling. And you see that on especially older, like wheel loaders, construction equipment. But nowadays they handle it in a different way. So the different way, which I can pretty confidently say is not coming to this tractor, certainly not as an upgrade, is the computer controlled way, right? So we've got this valve here, this connects to our loader, and it's a physical connection to the valves. We've got hydraulic lines running through here, and as you move that, you're actually moving the actual valves. Because of that, or well, if you change that to computer controlled, where if you move that, then it tells a valve to move, you can then essentially decouple it from this, the loader cylinders. And what I mean by decouple is you don't have to move that at all in order for these to move. And by decoupling it, you put sensors here and here, and whenever you pull back on the lever there, it says, okay, I want to go up. The computer tells this to, add fluid here, which actually makes it go up. And as these sensors start to tell the attitude of it, it says, oh, we're not level anymore. Add some fluid here so that we stay level. And you can do that in dual function up and down, which is really good. The other thing you can do is you can turn it off. And you could probably on the fly actually calibrate it. So if you had a situation where you didn't want it to curl, you didn't want it to keep it exactly level, you wanted it to curl back just a bit, or maybe just keep from dumping stuff on your hood, then you could calibrate it with the computer because it actually has sensors to tell it where it is, and it can do whatever you ask it to. So that's number two. Number three, and this is one you see I think more often than we know, but it's to do it hydraulically. And what I mean by that is a set of valves, checks, unloading valves, relief valves, that whenever you move this up, so think about this, you move fluid into, let me put it here, move fluid into this side of it, right? This is called the head side or the piston side. As you move fluid here, the fluid here has to go out. And traditionally, or in a stock form, it goes out into the reservoir, right? And it's low pressure fluid. Well, if you plumb it in the right way and you have the right valving, you can take this fluid when it's going up and say, put that fluid here, and you can change the ratio of it. Now, if you've got the same size cylinder here and here, the actual fluid coming out of here, which is referred to as the rod side, going into the head side of this is less. So there's less fluid in the rod side than there is the head side. Now this happens to be 1.75, this happens to be 1.5, so it does kind of work out in that ratio where it works well for this particular setup. So that's option number three. Take fluid from the boom pistons or the boom cylinders, move it to the bucket cylinders as you go up. Same thing when you come down, it's in reverse, right? So you've got fluid that is coming out of here that needs to come into the rod side of this. So the head side of the boom cylinder into the rod side, that's going to be a different ratio because there's more fluid here than there. So I don't know if that makes sense, but all that to say, that's the third way, and that's the way that I think is a candidate for this particular tractor as well as some of the compact tractors, right? As you get into the big tractors, I don't know if they are going to care as much, or they already have mechanically self-leveling options that are a little better designed, just because, most likely it's because they have more room, or they designed them from the beginning. In this case, right, this 120R loader is the one we've had for what, since 2018-ish, but it really isn't different than the H120 that was before it. So, you know, they're trying to utilize an existing platform and make it mechanically self-leveling. I'm sure there were some trade-offs. So that's the three ways that you can do it. Computer is out of the question, I think. And I'm going to tell you why mechanically self-leveling is out of the question for me. A big part of that is I have 20 to 25 degree hills in my yard. And so the nature of a mechanically self-leveling, because of this, basically because of this bend, you can only tilt back a certain amount, right? The only way to fix that is to straighten this out potentially, or to make it kick out at the bottom, which I think they did just a bit. But because you don't have that much curl back and it's mechanically self-leveling, you're basically stuck with the amount of curl back that you have at the bottom. And these curl back, this loader probably curls back the same as the mechanically self-leveling at this height, but as this one comes up, it's actually going to curl back a little bit more. So once you get to this point, you can like shake it off and you still are kind of cupping the material, where on the self-leveling, it is actually trying to keep it the same as it was at the bottom. So as it comes up, it's still forward. Now, for me, that's a deal breaker. That is not a deal breaker for everybody. I realize that some people have built some extensions to make the bucket curl back more. That's going to work for a lot of people, I think. But for me, that's just moving the problem around. And I've got heavy clay soil. If I had all sandy soil, that probably is a better solution for me. But again, I'm not everybody. There's a lot of people that love their self-leveling loader, and it works great for them. Certainly it works great with forks. No question that using forks is much easier on the mechanically self-leveling than it would be on a loader like this that's not self-leveling. So I could ramble on for a bit, but let me stop there. I'm going to jump on the tractor and I'll show you what I've got going so far. I have it self-leveling in one direction. I'm working on number two. Again, the challenge is not actually doing this. The challenge, especially for this tractor, is doing it in a space that you can deal with, and I've really considered possibly coming to this side of the tractor and running things with hard lines across, because we're running out of room on that side. But again, trying to do this in a way that's cost effective. If you think about the loader, let's say, I think I saw it for $4,800. If you bought a new one for $4,800 and you just attached it here, you could probably sell this loader. I know some people are going to say they've sold theirs for more, but I'm thinking 2,000 max. I would actually be really happy with 2,000. I bet there's some of them that have just went for 1,500. I'm sure somebody got a little bit more than that, but all that to say, I wouldn't count on getting much more than 2,000. Let's just say you got 2,500, okay? You got $2,500, you spent $4,800, forget taxes also for a moment. And you know, you're looking at what, $2,300 to upgrade this, and that's no value on your time and headache of trying to get rid of this. I'll tell you, when I called literally, I think in July of 2020, I asked my dealership, I said, hey, how much do they cost? At that time they were like $3 something. Actually, they didn't know how much they were. I actually had to call, I think, later in November, and they said, oh, they're 3,000 whatever something. And you know, and I said, oh, I want to trade in my loader. What are you going to give me for that? And I think the offer was $800. And I was like, $800? It's got to be worth more than that. Brand new, they're 3,000. It's in really great shape. All the things you say when you're trying to trade something in, right? And he basically said, I hear you, but you know, I'm not going to be able to get rid of it. And you know, I need to be able to protect myself. I think we can sell it for 2,000, but we may have to get, you know, 1,500 for it, or even less than that, and then we may have to ship it. So yeah, $800. I was like, okay. So that was my experience. I'm sure others have had different experiences, but if that were true, you know, in today's money, we're talking about a disparity of what, almost $4,000. So that wasn't a good fit for me. So all that to say, doing this the hydraulic way and with the ability to turn it off, I'm pretty confident we can do that. I'm thinking it's definitely going to be less than 2,000 without question. I would love to be able to do it for, you know, somewhere around $1,500, $1,200, $1,500. That would give me a few dollars, as well as, you know, the ability to support it and give people this capability, right? The ability to have self-leveling when you want it, turn it off when you don't, and not have the headache of trying to get your loader, offload yours, or sell your whole tractor, right? One option is to sell your whole tractor and then buy a new one. That used to play out pretty good because the resale value was decent. Today, they've went up so much, I'm not sure that's a viable option. But anyway, I will stop rambling. Let me jump on the tractor here and I'll show you how this works, or show you it working. Let me put it that way. All right, so we are neutral, and I'm pretty sure self-leveling's on. I'm gonna do this at about 1,700 RPMs. That's roughly, it's a stage 3 pump. I don't remember exactly how I have it tuned, but this should be about like wide open throttle is for a stock tractor, somewhere in that neighborhood. So with self-leveling on, I'm just pulling back, as you can see. And again, I have the right ratio for the most part. I'll bring this down, and I'll show you. I'm pulling back here. I go up, they go level. Now, I haven't put a tape to it to see if it's exactly level, but it's pretty close to level. And as I mentioned before, I do have a slightly larger boom cylinder than a curl cylinder, so if you had the same cylinders, you may not be able to maintain an exact level. So, you know, but that said, what you could do is pull back just a bit as you start to go up. Or, you know, it would be as you come up here, if you had to adjust just a bit or add some while you're coming up, if you wanted to be real slick, then, you know, you could do that. Let me put this down here. Just to show you that you can turn it off. Yeah. There we go. Let's see. All right, so this is pulling straight back, as you can tell, just like normal. Now, we can do all the normal stuff, of course, and I can still self-level it manually. It's hard to look through the camera and do this. Of course, there's nothing on the fork, so it actually becomes pretty easy. You've got a load on it. It's a lot harder. That's any of the Kubota guys are watching, you know, I've had plenty of Kubotas, and I've done, this is a self-leveling, I've done, you know, the situation where you just go and you jam it into the corner and it works out just perfectly. It looks like you are a really good operator, but if you were to put something on there that you really cared about, nobody's going to go and jam it in the corner. But I would say, with this approach, you would be able to just pull it back. Oh, I'm all the way at the top here. I would have no qualms about putting something expensive on here and pulling it back. So, you get the idea. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show today. As I mentioned, I'm really wanting to start the conversation. I'd love to hear from anybody that is interested or disinterested, or, you know, feel free to tell me how much you love your mechanically self-leveling loader or some trick that I have not read about. Happy to hear those as well. Because, you know, I think I mentioned this, but I'm not inventing anything here. What I am trying to do is take a concept that's well established, that is, you know, in a lot of construction equipment, other places, and make that into something that is affordable and reasonable for somebody who owns a tractor like this. So, you know, no magic here, and it's not technology that you should be worried about. It works perfectly well on lots of things out there. It's just that one of the hydraulics experts that I talk to probably most often. He works at one of my distributors. You know, his feedback when I started talking about this is, you know, this was really popular 15, 20 years ago. He's like, it was, you know, everybody was trying to make sure everything was self-leveling. He said, most of the stuff we see today is not self-leveling. So think of, you know, skid steers. Bobcat has their version of a self-leveling loader, but those skid steers, most often that you drive, they're complete control by the operator and not self-leveling. So he made a good point. It's interesting to me. I just think that if we could do it for the right price point, I think a lot of people would love to have it, myself included. So hope this is interesting. As I mentioned, please comment below, and thanks for watching.